Hi everyone! This week for art, I was trying to think of something that would go along with our theme. We all know that Wednesday is Wear Your Hat Day, and when I started thinking of hat art projects, what came to mind were rabbits because of a magician's hat. A magician pulls a rabbit from his hat, and then I couldn't get my mind off rabbits. So here's what we're doing today. It's a pretty big project, and there's a couple of variations with this project. For my kindergarten through second grade students, I want you to focus on this one. If you would like a challenge, you can work on the project that is for third through fifth grade. But either way, it's going to take some special coordination and some good fine motor practice to accomplish these today. So let's talk about supplies. For your project today, you're going to need 2 pieces of paper. One is for the background, one is for the rabbit. You are going to need some markers. Just any markers that you have will work. You are going to need some Q-tips, some crayons, some water, glue, any kind will work, scissors, and something to draw with. I love drawing with Sharpie, as my artists all know. We do a lot of Sharpie, but you could draw with a crayon or a marker, or even though it's not my favorite, you are allowed to draw with pencil first and then go over it with something else. But we're first gonna start with our background. So you're gonna set one paper aside and set your other things aside so that you have a space to work. And the first thing we're gonna do is draw some flowers. Your flowers can have any shape or style. I know a lot of you are into the beautiful flowers we're starting to see outside. We're seeing, we have daffodils and tulips. Maybe you're seeing some flowers on some trees, some buds that have opened up and have these beautiful petals. It's completely up to you what you want to draw. So draw whatever kind of flower you would like and color it in. Now, one of the things that makes this a unique project is the background has sort of a watercolor effect to it, even though we're not watercoloring. It reminds me a little bit of the project we did with the spray bottle, but the reason we're doing that is we want to make our rabbit stand out. The rabbit has a lot of line in it. The lines are giving it texture. We talked about this in school a lot. And so we want to have the background not take away from, but maybe add some interest to what it is we're working on. Now, I tend to work from the right side of my paper to the left because I am left-handed and I walk around with a lot of ink on my arm. But this tends to work pretty well. We are just going to fill these in, coloring flowers however you want. If you're not sure what kind of flower to do, just try some. Try starting like I'm doing here with a center of a circle, and then from there, try making some petals. You really can't go wrong. And like I said, we're gonna make this look a little watercolored in the end anyway, so it's not as though you can make a mistake. You are just going to want to have some color. Another kind of flower that's fairly easy to draw is pretending that the flower is kind of one of these kind where it might have a lot of real thin petals. Could even make a multicolor. Just adding in a few darker ones. We're also going to be adding some stems in. So if you're wondering why this looks a little strange with just these flowers floating on the page, they won't look that way for long. So don't worry if you're thinking that something's looking a little off. You're right, but we're gonna fix it. Let's see, I think I'll add a few more things in here. You don't need to worry too much about the middle of your paper because keep in mind that your rabbit is going to go in the middle. So you could do some smaller things just to add in a little color, but you don't need to worry about it as much as the outside edge. You can see I'm just doing some smaller flowers because I'm soon going to need those Q-tips and water. All right, maybe I'll add just a little bit more, and then I'll show you the stems. As always, you can pause the video or do one part of the video one day and another part another day. This project we would have divided up into at least 2 days in our classroom. So that gives you an idea about how long it might take. All right, I need to add in some vines or some stems. Now this is where the crayons come into play. Since we're going to be adding some watercolor effect to this, we know that watercolor and crayons don't mix. When we have something waxy like a crayon, it doesn't allow the watercolor to totally mix in. So it just adds some interest and some resist, which we talked about as well. Oh dear, I broke my crayon. We know that happens, and that's okay. And I'm adding some petals here. It's really whatever you'd like to add. And the reason I did that in crayon, and I'm going to add more here, is because then when I do the marker, it's going to make it interesting to look at. I might even add a little crayon in here. Again, this is not going to bleed like a marker would. This is going to stay put since it doesn't mix with water. So let's see, I could even do some of that. Let's add some blue here. The crayon just makes it pop. Maybe a little orange in this one. And lastly, let's see, I can put those markers away. And again, I'm adding the marker because I am going to get that a little bit wet. Mr. Sketch markers, I know how much you guys like those in class. Ooh, this one smells good. Some of them actually don't smell very good. I have some yellows that I'm not sure what flavor they were supposed to be, but they do not smell good. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Might be a little bit rushed, but now I'm ready to add the water. Now I just use my water cup from when I'm painting, dip the Q-tip in, and you're just going to let that color bleed a little bit. The Q-tip will bring the water onto the ink, and you're gonna let it just kind of come out away from your flower. And as you can see, it really gives it a neat watercolor effect. Now, if I am using a Q-tip that has a certain color on it, I really want to stay with that color, or when they mix, it won't maybe look the way I want it to. So I usually try to use the same Q-tip for any colors that are near each other on the color wheel. And that way I know that I won't have any mixing that are a little too strange. Now I might use this blue also on the pink, only because pink and blue together with a little bit of purple actually are really pretty colors together. So that one I won't worry about. However, when I get to the oranges and yellows, I am definitely going to switch to a new Q-tip. All right, oops, I can actually do this one too. And you can see it's just giving it a neat watercolor effect without watercolors. If you have watercolors at home and you would rather watercolor your background, you sure can. You'll notice that wherever I did crayon though, it has a different look to it, and I really like how that works. All right, I'm using the other end of the Q-tip for my oranges and my yellows. And these aren't bleeding as much. Isn't that funny how certain colors really bleed a lot and some just don't? These are ones that just are not. That's okay too. I'm still gonna add enough water to them because in the end they might have more of a watery look than we think. I can actually see some of the orange coming off. All right, I've used both sides, but I'm going to need a new one for the stems. So I'm going to add some to these stems. And again, I love how that crayon resists and does not allow me to drag the color off of them because they don't mix with the water. Just gives it an interesting look. I love how that looks. Alrighty. It's kind of the same idea if any of you have dyed an egg before and you use crayon on it, the crayon stays there. It doesn't change when it is dipped into the color because the color and the crayon don't mix. The crayon has a wax about it that pushes away any sort of water-based coloring, just like what we're doing here. All right, once you've added all the water to your background and you have made a very colorful spring background here, you're gonna need to set this off to dry. And I'm pretty happy I got everything I needed. I really only needed 2 Q-tips for mine, but you might have more colors and you might need more, and that's okay. So I'm gonna set this off to dry, and then I'm gonna need to get a new piece of paper. And I'm done with the water, done with the Q-tips, and now I'm ready to draw my rabbit. For my rabbit, like I said, I'm gonna be using Sharpie. You are welcome to use a marker you were just using or pencil, but use something that you, if you are going to erase, remember you're gonna need to draw really, really lightly. I'm not going to erase. I'm going to just take whatever I get from my project and go with it. Now here's where we have variation between the two. This one is going to require a lot of fine motor skills, and I feel like that's something we really need to stay on top of, especially as we're doing more on the computers, because my kindergarten through 2nd graders, I am going to have you add texture to this bunny with little tally marks. You're not going to cross them ever, but we are just going to make lines to make little tally marks. 3rd through 5th graders, or anyone who would like a challenge, you're going to use Zen Doodle to color in your bunny. It also gives it texture, but a different kind of texture, and it really stands out from the watercolored background. All right, let's draw the bunnies first. I'm gonna start with your blank piece of paper. It is standing up tall, vertically, not sideways. We want a tall piece of paper. And we're going to look at where the half of the paper would be, that halfway part. And we're gonna go down a bit further to the bottom half. We are going to draw a circle in that bottom half of the page. You'll notice my circle isn't super huge, but it does take up a good portion. That is the bunny's nose. So we're going to add in a little nose, a little mouth, however you'd like. I like to color in this part right here, but you certainly don't have to. All right, then we're gonna do the part of the bunny's face that is kind of the cheeks. Now you have to be careful here because if you go too far out, the bunny's cheeks will be a little too wide. If you go too small, then he might look a little bit too narrow on the page. So I would just go out just a little. You can kind of do it on both sides so you can see the line your bunny's gonna take. Connect those lines. So we're making that part of the face. Okay, so there's the bunny. He has a little bit of cheeks and that's good. Once we get up above the nose, so I have these lines and we've got to get above the nose, I need to then draw in the top of the bunny's head. It's kind of like a rainbow that connects over to either side. And it is fine if your lines get off a little bit. I've got that too. It's not a problem. All right, we're gonna add in some big bunny ears. Coming up, big bunny ears. All right, that's what I have so far. This is the part that can be a little bit confusing, but we need to have a space for the bunny's eyes. We are gonna draw a line from the bottom of the ear, bring it over, down, connecting with the nose. It kind of is like a little rainbow on its side, because then I'm going to have another little rainbow coming over here and connecting to the nose. The reason I'm doing that is because the bunny's nose comes out away from the face, and that helps our eyes say, oh yeah, that nose comes out away from the face. Plus, it gives me these little areas where I can draw the eyes. So I'm going to draw some big bunny eyes right here. And if you like to have those hot spots that give it a little bit more of a cartoon eye, you can draw those in before you color in the rest of the eye. If you would like eyelashes or any other style of eye, now would be the time to do that. There's my bunny eyes. Okay, once we get to this point, this is when you have to make a decision. Do you want to give your bunny texture with some lines, which is what I would recommend for kindergarten through 2nd grade? Or do you want to try your hand at some Zen Doodles? If you're wanting to do any sort of doodling, I'm going to suggest that you use the lines you've created. Now, we did forget to add the bottom part of the bunny. So there we go. I've added that in. But you'll notice the way that the face is divided up is the same way you would do your different doodles. So this would be its own doodle, this part, the forehead, each ear, and the body. Depending on if you have a larger body space, you might want to divide it up. Now, you can obviously make as many of these as you would like if you have the supplies. But for right now, I'm going to focus on the process for my kindergarten through 2nd grade. Older students, basically, I know you've been introduced to Zen Doodles before. Think of different patterns and lines and designs and start filling that in. If you need help, you can ask a parent to think of some ideas for you. There's lots of images online that you can look at. Just make sure you have parent help or permission first. So let's work with this guy right here. How do I start to make all of those lines and give him all of that texture? It does take a while, and this is where you might want to divide up your work and say, you know what, I am going to do the ears, and then I'm going to go run around outside and I'll come back and work on it a little bit more. It takes patience, but in the end, it's well worth it. So here's how you do it. You just make little tally marks all the way across your bunny. And I only make them as tall as what my hand is comfortable doing. So if I can just keep my hand steady and go up and down, that's how long I'm going to make them. If I have to move my hand a lot, that's too long. We want these lines to be just what our natural hand span could be when you're writing. So I'll just go straight across, and a little bit of variety is fine. Remember, we're adding texture, and right now it doesn't necessarily look like anything, but when I finish and I add all these lines in, it makes a huge difference. So I'm going to suggest you pause your video and you work on this as you can. Knowing what I've seen in class, you are all very persistent and hardworking, so this would not be anything too difficult. If you were sitting in my room right now, we would easily be able to work on this, and we would talk about the importance of careful work. We are quality producers, and we would just take our time. Notice I have to have really little lines right here because it's kind of where the bunny's head connects. All right, the body part is done. I could move on then to the next section. I am just gonna keep doing these lines over and over and over. In the end, I'm gonna have a bunny with a whole lot of lines. Now you'll notice I didn't do the nose part, and some of that was just the way I liked the bunny to look. If you wanted to do that, you could. I would suggest maybe doing those lines going out away from the nose. Once you have finished your bunny, you are going to cut it out. Check and see if your background is dry. Mine is not quite dry yet. And then you are gonna glue down your cutout rabbit and you will have a fabulous art piece. I really hope that you will keep working on this. Show me some really cool bunnies. Remember, if you are a Seesaw classroom, I can see your Seesaw work and I will comment on that. So show me your work in Seesaw. If you are using Google Classroom, go ahead and post that in Google Classroom and hopefully I can see that too. Or soon, I believe you'll be able to just post it in my own art room, STEM room, Google Classroom, and then that way I can see it right away and comment on it. You are also welcome to email it to me at bbrestel@tahomasd.us, and I would love to be able to comment on your work as well. So, Cubs, I hope to see a lot of artwork coming in. I hope you are balancing hard work and focusing on your schoolwork with good outside play. We've had some really nice weather. All right, Cubs, I can't wait to see these all finished. I miss you. Bye-bye.